My name is Brina Tiemeyer, and I am the Director of Clinical Services here at Wedgewood Christian Services. You're going to want to be available in regards to creating a safe space for the discussion to occur. So, before even starting the conversation, parents and caregivers or the primary adults in a child's life need to make sure that the child themselves feel emotionally and physically safe, because those are two separate things. And they also need to make sure that the environment where they're going to have the conversation or the discussion is a calm environment where the child can feel heard and comfortable asking questions, and know that it's okay to have a lot of questions, or maybe no, they don't maybe have one right at the moment or one right now, but that are opening the door for a space to be there to have come back to if those questions come up later. Constant exposure to the news or to images around the events can increase anxiety, it can increase stress, it can increase trauma. And not only for the child, but for the caregiver or the adult trying to hold space for that conversation, because then themselves can have a reaction to it in the background. And so we really need to monitor our media consumption and encourage breaks from the news coverage here and there when we're going into those conversations. And then for school age children or even younger, make sure that they're not being exposed to graphic or violent images on like those electronic devices or televisions related to the event, because that could be triggering and they could be on those devices on their own time without support and be triggered and not know where to go in that moment. Yeah, so you need to be able to check in with yourself and ensure that you are in a spot to have these conversations. And so, what I mean by that is the first step every parent or caregiver should do before even creating really that safe space or like engaging in that conversation is take a pause. Like, literally, just take a brain break and assess where you yourself are at, because sometimes we don't have the right words in the moment, or we may not know how to have the conversation in a way that we want to in the end. And so we maybe need to ourselves reach out to our support systems or reach out to our community networks, have a conversation with an expert if you're at that point, because you need to be able to be in a good headspace, feeling like you can provide what I like to call like the emotional container, where it's like our job as the adults or the caregivers to like be this container where we can hold everything our kids have for us. And then after we're done holding it out of sight from them, we can just like let that go and then also feel ours again, right? So we need to be able to contain and maintain and hold space to validate their feelings. And to do that, we need to be able to be in a good space ourselves. So, having support in your life is going to allow you to feel like you can break down those stigmas or break down those barriers to having to do it alone or get through it, right? You're going to be provided that reassurance that you are not alone. And having those supports set up, even in times of not crises or times that everything's just going calm or smooth, is going to allow you when tragedy strikes or when trauma happens or when something stressful occurs, you already have them in the back burner to reach into, versus trying to scramble for them or look for them at the last moment. When you have those relationships set up, relationships are how we thrive as human beings. I mean, human beings are resilient. We are able to bounce back, but one of the key factors in children being able to heal from trauma is having a supportive, caring caregiver. And so, in order to be supportive and caring, you need to be able to take care of yourself first. Otherwise, you're going to be pouring from an empty cup every time. And although we think we do a good job at masking it, kids know right away that we're depleted. It's important for you to allow time for yourself, but also allow time for your child to not have to talk about it right in the moment. So kind of take a second to think about age appropriateness of the conversation. Take a second to think about what have they heard? Maybe what have they not heard about? Will they hear about it? And it's not necessarily a guessing game. The best thing to do if you want to know if your child knows something is ask them. They're gonna tell you. And so people think there's like a magic wand or like this perfect question to start conversations like these. And honestly, it's simply just ask them, hey, tell me more about what's going on today. Or, hey, did you hear about anything today at school that made you feel something inside that you're not used to? Or you could just simply be like, hey, did you see the news today? And just kind of take it from there. And they're going to lead you in that conversation, whether or not they have heard anything. And if they haven't, then meet them where they're at. Don't fill them up to speed and with all of the details, right? But meet them where they're at. Tell them, hey, well, if you do hear about something and you ever want to talk about it, I'm more than willing to have that conversation with you and just normalize it. I think the biggest thing I can tell you to do is just be truthful about what happened. So I think a lot of times we try to maybe skirt around the topic, especially when it's like our first exposure or we're nervous that we're going to traumatize our child by sharing the details of the event. But if they come to you, they already heard about it. So they already know, and it's better to know the truth versus maybe a perception that's not reality or not actually what occurred. And so the only way to help that conversation is so, like for young kids, they definitely don't need to know every little detail that occurred. And most likely, age appropriately, they're not going to have heard every single details, but they're going to be kind of sitting in this bubble of worried about their anxiety, their safety. They're going to worry about their parents' safety. They're going to kind of focus this into what their map of the world is in that moment, right? So they're going to take this to more than just school. They're going to worry about, am I safe at home? Are my parents safe at work? Are my parents safe at home? Am I safe at the store? Whatever's within their world, they're going to start questioning safety all around because it's that black and white thinking that they have at that developmental stage of this happened, so that means this. And we need to just meet them where they're at and just give them truth about what happened versus provide an overview or a generalization across. Because if we generalize too much, then they're not going to be able to know when to feel, because some anxiety is good. That's a protective factor for us, but they're not going to know when to feel anxiety or when it's okay to be calm or to regulate ourselves. I think the thing that I would encourage is to first ask yourself where you're comfortable at and make sure that we don't go too far one way or the other. So like don't go straight to all the black and white facts, but also don't lead towards fairy tale or fantasy. Kind of try to find that middle ground, which is hard, but it's honestly going to look different for all of us because we are the going to know our children where they're at, right? And so where I really want to take that is take that question is don't let the first time you talk about it be a one and done conversation because one and done is not sufficient. And so my recommendation or like what I would want to say is like remember to keep checking in. Like just keep checking in. So instead of discussing a school shooting one time, it's crucial to continue the conversation over time so that you can let your child or teenager know that I really do care about you. Two, I'm open to having this discussion and I'm okay having it. It's really important to not only check in like tomorrow, but then also in the next day, maybe in 2 weeks from now, because the more news comes out or the more details they maybe have heard from their fellow classmates' perceptions or student body, the more they're going to need you to kind of give them those truths. I think you need to truly understand that there is that difference between a younger child and a teenager. So, developmental younger children, if they're having a negative reaction as a result to a tragedy in the community, they're going to suddenly maybe become more clingy, or they're going to maybe want to sleep in bed with you. They maybe want to, they may regress or go backwards in some like toilet training things, right? Whereas teenagers or older kids tend to become more isolated. They may actually feel like they have to solve things by themselves because they're older, right? They should know better. And so, what I really challenge parents and caregivers to do is watch from both angles. So, like, watch for the external reactions, but also watch for those internal reactions and the isolation, that withdrawal. And if your child doesn't want to talk to you about it, offer them the ability to go talk to someone else. I think that as parents and caregivers, we want it to be us. Like we want them to talk to us. We need it to be us, right? But make sure that they know that it's okay if it's not us, but give them those supports or connect them with someone who it is safe to talk to about it. And so with that, you could encourage them to talk to a trusted coach, teacher. It could be their pediatrician or primary care doctor. It could be a mental health expert. It could be their guidance counselor at school. I think the thing is that parents need to be okay that it doesn't have to be them, but know who are the safe adults on their team or who are the safe adults in their environment that they could point them to have that conversation. I think the first thing you have to do is be honest and validate feelings. So, what I mean by that is go to your partner kind of with that same mindset that you were going to go with your child. Because talking about school shootings is one of the most challenging conversations that we can have. And so, offering love, support, and reassurance to your partner, not just your child in those moments, and in return, being open for them to provide you love, support, and reassurance can help you process tragic events in a much more healthy and appropriate way. So once you both know that have been reassured and validated, you are kind of coming together at that point, then you're going to be able to say, now, how do we want to have these conversations with our kids? I'm comfortable discussing X. Are you also comfortable with X, or would you rather go with Y? Can we find a middle ground? And making sure that it is like a kind of scripted, prepped conversation, because you don't want to go into it unprepared. It is giving that, like taking that pause, like I said earlier, like taking that pause, connect together, and be sure that you're able to truly move forward in the direction that you want, because it's not that you have to get it perfect the first time, because again, you're supposed to talk about it over and over and over again, but at least you're able to continue to grow to that perfect scenario. Yeah, so if you're noticing that your child's stress levels or response to community events or tragedies are hard to manage right away, that to me is you shouldn't hesitate to seek guidance. And that guidance can be from someone within your support or within your community. And it also can be someone new, like a mental health expert or a therapist or clinician. Parents should also seek out professional mental health help if they are struggling with it themselves. It doesn't have to be where they're only constantly reflecting on their child's reactions to the events. They need to also be providing self-reflection to know if they need to be checked in with as well. I think that some of those signs are if you're noticing a change in appetite, a change in mood, whether it's hyperactive or hypoactive, meaning like decreased or de-escalated, withdrawn, isolated behaviors. If you're noticing an increase or decrease in sleeping habits, all of those things can be correlated to having an unhealthy response to the event. And so you need to be sure that you're kind of watching daily healthy habits and how have they changed since or following the date or the day that they heard the details about the tragic event. One of the biggest things I want to say and I know that we have a good job with media coverage shedding light on this, but if you or someone you know is struggling with thoughts of suicide, or if they're struggling with thoughts of self-harm, please know that you're not alone. And even if you feel like you are, you're not. And we do want to help. And there is confidential help out there. There's help available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can call or text the National Lifeline at 988. You also can access more than just this interview, and there are tools for parents and caregivers out there. So, for example, like Wedgewood Christian Services offers tip sheets as resources for parents. They can access those, such as the one you're referencing today, like talking to kids about tragedy, on our website at www.wedgewood.org/tip sheets. Another great tool for parents to have in their toolkit for these tragedies is the National Child Traumatic Stress Network, so www.nctsn.org. They have a comprehensive resource guide for parents, caregivers, and even educators to support students, and they have resources specifically to school shootings.